It's a tough sport. It's not for everybody. You got to be a little sick to love this game, and we got some sickos.
Welcome to NFL Daily. It's episode 3 of Saturday Sickos, and I brought in a ringer today. Last week we did the all underrated team on offense. This week we're doing the all underrated team on defense. And strangely, my partner on Saturday, Ollie Connolly, the one requirement he had during contract negotiations to come on board with NFL Daily, Ollie, was, you need to put me on a show with the man Nick Shook. And now here we are. I've done it.
Yeah, sickos aren't complete unless Shooky's in town. That's just the reality.
I mean, look, I'm glad to be a ringer. I'm usually a ringer on my friend's bowling team. I've been a ringer on our old softball team. Why not? Add it to the list.
It's too bad weightlifting isn't just like one of those sports that you can just like play at recess or whatever, because Shook would have been like a great ringer for that. Although there is still a lot of arm wrestling going around, I'm finding out, in middle school and elementary school for boys. So that could have been a good one. All right, so we did the all underrated offense last week with Ollie. I'm going to say let's build this defense back to front. Let's go with the defensive back first. Let's start at cornerback, actually. Why don't you get us going, Ollie?
I got to go with Kamari Lassiter from the Texans, who I think is probably one of the 3 best corners in the NFL right now. I think you could honestly, with this team, build out everyone on the Texans defense that just isn't Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter. And Derek Stingley, I still think is slightly understated given where he's at in his development. But for me, it's Lassiter as truly like the picture textbook technique-based corner in the NFL with all the great athletic traits too. But he is just like 1-for-1 down the line. Every rep is picture perfect of how you would coach it up. And he doesn't get any of the love because it's all just swallowed into this amorphous, like the Texans are great, the pass rush is great, and we kind of forget they got 2 all-pro corners hanging out there as well.
Ooh, all-pro. So that you're saying that would be a top 6 overall cornerback in the league if we're putting 3 cornerbacks on each team. You're putting Lassiter in that category.
I would have him right now. Satan lives in a league of his own. He is, just a demigod. And then right after that, it's a conversation. Pick who you want, and I would have Lassiter right there with anyone else.
That is awesome. And if you think about like the value that they get from having these guys, now Stingley's on a second contract, but when they had Stingley on his first contract and then this one, that's a $30 million plus type of player that you have on these low cost rookie deals. That's a good shout out. And you never know, like if the Texans finish really strong here, this is becoming an extremely memorable defense where a lot of guys might get rewarded with the postseason honors. But he's already got a big one, all underrated team. All right, give me one of your cornerbacks, Shook.
Okay, we're going to go with somebody that we actually mentioned, I think, after the Monday night show, which is Dante Jackson, a guy who has made multiple stops in his career and is having a phenomenal year with the Chargers. His targeted passer rating is 40.8. It's among the best in the NFL, according to Next Gen Stats. It matches what you see with the tape, which is a guy who just has sticky coverage and fits perfectly in this Chargers defense. It's funny because you go through this exercise, like I have another Texan that's going to come up in this secondary. I have multiple Chargers on this group, or at least in consideration. And I think it just fits with what we know about these teams. These defenses are good, the Texans being the best, and the Chargers making a strong case for it. And it's because of guys like Dante Jackson.
Yeah, what do you think it is, Ollie, that Jesse Minter does that seems like he finds a way to get the best out of cornerbacks? Dante Jackson had some moments in Carolina. It wasn't always healthy, did not have a good season in Pittsburgh, and whoever they bring in to Los Angeles seems like it just works.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're not quite as wild and creative as they were when he was at Michigan. There's just a degree of like connectivity between all those guys. They have some pretty tough zone-based assignments that are more detailed and complex, I would say, like the standard drop to space zone stuff. And so when you're passing all that stuff off and you've got to like look on the fly of, okay, that guy's Justin Jefferson, he's really fast. Oh, Nico Collins, he's really tall and really fast. To have those wink-wink connections on the fly are essentially impossible in the NFL. It's why they don't have complex zone coverage structures a lot of the time, because someone's always hurt. You bring in a practice squad guy up. It used to be easier to do that stuff in college when you had a guy with Saban for like 3 years and it could be really detail oriented. So to get that level of like on the fly feel where guys are passing people off is like an astonishing achievement by all those players. Cam Hart on down the line, they just find guys, and it's all, I think, more in the brain and the feel and the connectivity between all of them.
Yeah, I'm counting on you guys to really make this scheme good and carry me a long way. So I'm just leaning on your picks. I wanted to just bounce off what you guys said. Give me your other cornerback, Shook, and then just jump right in after Ollie with yours.
Okay, so this one like doesn't stand the test of like rep by rep tape. Like he's got some ugly reps, but his nose for the ball is fantastic. It's Nashawn Wright from the Bears. He's had a phenomenal run over the last month and a half of just making plays on the ball. And I don't know if it's just me, but I value guys who tend to show up in the next gen numbers in ball hawk rate, whether it's pass defenses or interceptions, those guys with the higher production. And he's had a great run as of late. He has a great story too. He was on the Laney College team at Last Chance U, that sort of thing, and has fought his way into a role with the Bears and a Bears team that's very fun to watch, with a defense that I think is underrated but very strong in the back end. And it's because he makes plays in key spots alongside some of the better defensive backs that they have in that group. I've just loved watching him thrive over the last month and make key plays. It seems like every week he might get burned on a play, but he's going to come back and make a big play on the ball, and that's why I love him.
Imagine where they would be without him, given some of the other issues they have. And he doesn't just make plays, Chuck. It's like, these are some Hall of Fame all-time plays. You put the top 5 reel together of just the turnovers alone. It's as preposterous as anyone can ever have.
And if you're looking for a good watch, you're into like a sports reality show, that Laney College season was actually Nahshon Wright's brother that was in that season, but Nahshon Wright was kind of featured because it was like the older brother who had made it big. And I've always followed his career because of that. It's a great season of television, but he's bounced around. The Cowboys took him early, and he was with the Vikings, and it's always cool to see a guy kind of make his mark in the NFL after sticking around for a few years. Who else you got at cornerback?
I've got DJ Turner. I wanted to give some love to the fan bases who are like, we are mired in the mud here. Can you give us any glimmer of hope? And I'm saying to the Bengals fans, I know it's a complete disaster, but I see DJ Turner. And if we're doing that all-pro ballot, I think sneaky third-team selection, you do go rep by rep. You see him take on all the big boys, whether it's DK Metcalf, whether it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he locks people down. He has unbelievable instincts and feel on the move. He's got incredible makeup speed once he does get beat, which is more than you would like to see with a true tier 1 top tier guy. But he's had a sensational season when everything around him is just being pretty much a disaster.
Yeah,
it's so much fun to watch him develop, by the way, too. Sorry, Greg. But he was a late second round pick, which you were going to say. And like in year 3, like he's a testament to giving guys time to let them get their feet underneath them, because he was not the player that they expected him to be over the first 2 seasons. And it wasn't really until about halfway into this season where they realized, oh, now he's blossoming. It's just a testament to giving guys the full runway of their rookie deal before giving up on them.
And they really thought he was going to be like this versatile in-out corner. He'll go in the slot for us. He's crazy explosive. Now he's basically Richard Sherman. He's playing an assignment of defense, which is this like weird press and trail technique, which no one in the league does anymore, except for Al Golden. That's going very well. Good job by Al. But he's asked to do this really difficult, almost throwback assignment, and is doing it at a level that is just like career redefining for him. It's pretty cool.
It is one of the like surprising stories, and it's a reminder, these like cornerbacks, it's such an unpredictable position, and you can have these awesome seasons out of nowhere, and hopefully it sticks. Like AJ Terrell's had a good career since that 2021 season, I think it was, but sometimes like these guys pop up for these one seasons, and it's just such a position where there's ups, there's downs, but he's going to get a big second contract. He was a late second round pick. We'll move on to safety. I had just written down names just in case, just to give them a little bit of love. And these are almost lower. And I like your idea, by the way, Ollie, of having a third team All-Pro. I think you guys do that on the podcast. Like I'm like more positions, more awards. Like why not? I don't really trust the 50 AP voters to go like third team at safety or cornerback anyways, but it would be cool to have that. These guys would not be on that list, but just guys I enjoy watching that I wanted to give a little love. How about a little come up for Buster Brown, Monteric Brown for the Jaguars? I've just been surprised. Did not expect much out of him, and he's active. He's been fun to watch this year, and I always was a Tyson Campbell fan, and so far, I think the Browns have won that trade. He's a good player, and he's been a pretty good player since they traded Greg Newsom for Tyson Campbell. Maybe not a perfect player, but cornerbacks I enjoy watching. Let's go to safety, where Ollie actually built like a specialty tape, and this will be a fun show to watch on YouTube. We have some highlights, and I think we're going to put one of these tapes up. Give us your safety.
My first safety is Ty Okada with the Seahawks, who is maybe the biggest revelation of any player given the demands that have been placed on him by his coach, where Mike McDonald gets with an undrafted guy from Montana State and says, do you feel like being Kyle Hamilton in the NFL? One of the most special, versatile, dynamic players to walk in the sport in the past decade. And this undrafted guy says, I got it, boss. Don't worry about me. You want me to disguise coverage? You want me to play half on the hash and drive down? You want me to fit the A-gap from deep? I'll bring it, buddy. I can go and take Bijan Robinson one-on-one in the hole. Don't worry about that. I'll come and shut down Trey McBride. I'll be the creative little disguise element that allows Devin Witherspoon to go and attack the backfield. The way they've used him and him walking in and playing it to that degree is probably the most shocking thing I've seen from any single player this year. And it didn't even rear in my head just watching them week to week. I study them every week because I love Mike McDonald. And it never even popped in my eyes that a guy who's played so little ball has played that well until Mike McDonald himself went to the podium and is like, are you guys seeing what this guy is doing? It's just the most sensational stuff.
The beauty of this is that, we spend a lot of time talking about this whole defense, right? And you have the household names, you have the Devin Witherspoon. There's been a lot of attention paid to Nick Eamon-Wari, but I think it's the sum of all the parts, right? It's the contributions of a guy like Ty Okada that allows these other players to make big differences in different roles, because you can count on a guy like that who's just willing to sacrifice anything. This is a guy that just sticks his nose in the fray all the time, has no fear. He's kind of a throwback in that regard, where you just love watching him play because he's flying around and has no regard for his own safety.
Yeah, we're watching this film, and you put this clip together. What stands out for you in these pass reps, especially for Okada?
The pass reps is just there is zero wasted movement, sorting through traffic at real speed, and that's what you get from the combine, the time testing, and okay, how quick can you run a straight line speed? Well, most reps in the league aren't in a straight line. If you're a safety, there's some kind of angle. You've got to be as efficient as possible. You're probably working through bodies if you're coming from depth, and if you just watch him through this stuff, look at the way he works through things. Look at him walk through that, and then go and pin the thing in the flat. It's really remarkable, and just the distance he can cover forwards and backwards allows them to be as creative as they want in the disguises. The coaches always get the credit. We go to the nerd and say, what a genius this guy is. Well, if the guys aren't good enough, they're too slow, they can't feel it and read it on the fly, it's completely irrelevant. You get, crushed for 50 and you get fired. That's how it works. To just drop a guy in undrafted and ask him to be Kyle Hamilton is unlike anything I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, Ty Okada is a great shot. I think he's a perfect one. If you're watching this show, from the Seahawks, you want to sound smart, and it's like, it's not just Devin Witherspoon back there. It's not just Julian Love who came back, and we'll see, because the way McDonald talked about Okada, I don't think it's not like he's going to get benched down the stretch now that they're a little healthier in the back end. Who do you have as your two safeties, Nick?
First one's Evan Williams, a guy who has come on really strong, especially in the second half of the season. I think that he has defined I don't know if it's the resurgence, but just the Packers defense becoming a more complete unit and really producing over the last month and a half. He's been making plays. Another guy with a nose for the ball, but also somebody who's just making plays on the ball and getting involved in the box. Like he's another guy that'll come down and stop the run. He's been one of those players that when you watch the Packers week by week, Micah Parsons is out there. They have Rashawn Gary, about Edge Cooper and all these other guys, but ball goes over the top, and next thing you know, there's Evan Williams making a play. He's one of those players that I think people will come to recognize more and more often if the Packers make a deep run and he makes a key play, because he's made plenty of them this season, whether it's intercepting passes, breaking passes up. He just seems to be around the ball all the time.
Yeah, you're watching him make an interception of Jameis Winston, which is what everyone does. But Ollie, we were talking after the Thanksgiving game, especially. It's his run defense, and it's just his firing to the ball, and it's not always perfect, which is probably maybe why he's not making the All-Pro team quite yet. But he deserves an all-underrated spot. Like, what do you see in terms of that run defense?
Yeah, the run game enforcement stuff, they have wild team speed. Like, it just pops off when you watch them. They look quicker and more explosive. And if you remember back to the Eagles game last season, they looked slow on the field compared to the Eagles in the playoffs. Now they look so quick and so dynamic, and I think he's a key element of that. We're kind of blessed with these young safeties, Antonio Johnson, Cam Kinchins, Nick Cross, but Williams just has a little different degree of tenacity. I don't know if you saw when he got into the one-on-one fight with Trent Williams. He stood up to the big boy, he threw him into the dirt, and he was like, I will not back down from anyone. If it's in the hole one-on-one with Jameer Gibbs, if it's after the rep with Trent Williams, I do not care. I'm here to play big boy football, and he flies around like crazy.
If we're going to go to another safety, by the way, we're going to go back to Houston real quick. Kalen Bullock has been excellent, and he was good last year. And I know we pay attention to, the Lassiters of the world, the Derek Stingley's, the Jalen Petries. Bullock has, I don't know how people missed this kid coming out of USC. You want to talk about somebody with a nose for a ball, just an innate sense from being around the football. It's him. And we've talked about the big plays that he's made in recent weeks. I think it was the Buffalo game where he made a big play late in that one. But he's just a guy that, again, kind of like Evan Williams in a different fashion, when the ball is headed toward the back end of the defense, he always just seems to be there. And he just seems like a natural fit for this defense with so many stars around him that he is the I don't know if I would call him like the linchpin or maybe the keystone to this entire group, that he fills out that secondary, and he's somebody that deserves more attention.
Yeah, he's he has great ball skills. This secondary is tricky because, like you said, I don't know if you have another one of your picks is from this safety group, because Yeah, like people do know about Jalen Petrie, I think, who does everything for them in the back end, but he still does seem underrated for like the level of player. But Bullock absolutely fits the bill too as a guy with great ball skills. You don't necessarily see that in the secondary that much, Ollie.
No, he's on a different level. Like, usually it's like, well, if they can catch, we put them on the other side of the ball and we go and score a bunch of points. For some reason, he's like the only guy in the secondary in the league who can consistently catch. Everything has unbelievable range. I do think he is one of the all-time great gamblers. And if you gambled and you were playing for the Panthers, you might be in trouble. He's playing in front of the most ferocious pass rush in like recent times with Jalen Petrie, with those two all-pro corners on the outside. You can get away with some stuff. And then when it pays off and it hits, it looks pretty good. But he's in the perfect location and playing pretty well.
Who else you got at your safety spot, Ollie?
I got to throw Tyke Smith in here for the Bucks. I know you've talked about him on the pod this season, but Nick talked about Evan Williams and just kind of the general tenacity and ferocity. I'm not sure there's anyone who plays as offended on Sundays as Tyke Smith does. And everyone in the league just like insults him between the snap, it feels like, and he comes out and he hits everything and he hits everyone and does 1,000 different roles. And they've really now got a situation where it's almost like they clone Winfield again and they can just mix and match and flip-flop what they want to do with the two of those safeties.
That's quite a compliment too, that you could be able to be used in that way with Antoine Winfield. He seems like a perfect Todd Bowles player. It's been fun watching them, and yet it hasn't been consistent on that defense. But you can't really fault the young guys in the secondary. I want to just give a quick shout to a couple people. Quentin Lake, when he was healthy, was having a great season for the Rams. I think he deserves a good second contract. And then the one that maybe this wouldn't be a hipster pick. I'm sure all the like coverage numbers aren't amazing, but I'm just happy to see Kevin Byard having another Kevin Byard type of season for the Chicago Bears. He's 32 or 33. I feel like he's most known for Deion Sanders not knowing his name back in the day, if you remember that. And yet he is a guy who's popped up with 2 first-team All-Pro seasons, like 4 years apart. And he's an important part of that secondary who's been so injured. So seeing a guy like that, who I thought was kind of cooked and his career was just about over, just want to give him some love. And he'll be playing big-time football down the stretch.
Here's a little story about Kevin Byard real quick, just to give you like some context for how long he's been doing it. He first rose to prominence with the Titans back when I was still living out there in LA and working in the newsroom with you in Culver. And
yes.
I did a one-on-one with him on the lot back then. That's how long it's been. We've been in Inglewood for years. I've been gone and remote for years.
I feel like he's almost most well known beyond Deion for being every like analyst trade deadline go get candidate for like 3 years in a row. It's like, could you go and get Kevin Byard? Then the Eagles went and did it, and he was completely fried and cooked when he got to Philadelphia, and we all had egg on our face. But a really good bounce back year, and someone like Kalen Bullock as like the true free ranging middle of the field safety. That's the career. That's the career you want to have.
Good comp. Let's go to linebacker. For the uninitiated, this is the position that gets Ollie up in the morning, or gets him staying up on East Coast hours, which he crazily does during football season. He just switches and pretends like he's living on the East Coast there in Manchester. So what linebackers this year have you enjoyed watching the most that deserve to be on the all underrated team?
There's a lot this season, which is a true bounce back, where last year you're digging through the rubble being like, can we find a fourth, fifth one here that could play pretty well? I went first with Divine Diablo from the Falcons, who, when he came over from Vegas, I just thought that was a complete whiff and a mistake to do. He's a converted safety who was always like, oh, he can play in space, you get all the coverage stuff. People say you can't find coverage linebackers. Well, you might get a plus coverage linebacker who can do absolutely nothing for you in the run fit. He comes to Atlanta and he's been incredible around the ball and making plays in the backfield. And he's playing in that really mugged up kind of linear path system where it's either blitz or drop. And that's where I think he's at his best, but he's added this new fresh element to his game where he can really kind of dance and skip around the box and slide through those crevices and go make plays in the backfield, which is just not what his game was like at all before he's got here. And he's been super impactful, super productive, and now has the sick aesthetic where he's got the club on one arm and he's just swatting people away and he's going to make him plays. So Divine Diablo jumps out for me.
Yeah, I think about that defense and how many cool parts of it has and how they use them well. And then I think I don't know if that defense is going to exist next year. It's kind of a shame. We'll see who ends up being their head coach next year. But like so many guys seem like good fits, and we've seen development out of their rookie pass rushers. But that's a good shout out coming from the Raiders. Everyone like looks a little better after they leave the Raiders. Who else do you got, Chuck?
Well, first off, I wanted to think real quick. Maybe this is just like an association by uniform, but and I think it was a different defensive scheme. But like Diablo going to the Falcons, having a good year, it kind of makes me think about when like Michael Walker, who's no longer there. I always liked him with the Falcons, different types of players, but it's just like, I don't know what it is about Atlanta. There's always a linebacker that comes from Atlanta that I like. I'm going to go with, this might be a bit of a cherry pick, but he's a rookie. He's having a great year. Carson Schwessinger, who's just been fantastic for the Browns. He has effectively replaced Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah as best as possible in this defense. A former walk-on at UCLA who ends up being a top end of the second round draft pick. I think he's still a strong candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year based on how he's performed in his first season. He ranks in like the top 25 among all linebackers according to PFF. He's in the top 20 in run defense, and you just see it on the tape. He's another guy who's not afraid to get dirty, to fire in with explosion. He's rangy. He can get from sideline to sideline. He's decent in pass coverage. He's the type of athletic linebacker that I think is a bit of a dying breed. Even as we turn toward more sub packages, he's a guy that can play on all three downs, and he's been a big part for that defense, a big piece of it for sure.
When you're watching him, like, did you expect Ollie this big of an impact right off the bat?
No, not this big of an impact. I think he almost falls into that Diablo bucket where he was billed as, okay, we're going to get all the coverage chops, the coverage and range, and Jihad Campbell has more of the size and power and like physical strength to maybe be more of the first down enforcer who can then survive on third down. He just walks in the league and is just killing people at the point of attack day one. Stood up, mugged up, and then they run the ball at you when you're mugged up these days, and he's like, I don't care about it. I'm just going to throw somebody to the floor and go get the ball. I did not expect him to have this kind of all-around impact. I thought he would really be a sub-package piece coming in on passing downs, then you would maybe figure out over time how close can you get into the line of scrimmage, how much can you play just in the trenches, big boy on big boy football. So for him to be this impactful right away, I agree with Shook. I think he's the kind of the runaway defensive rookie of the year. If you just go snap by snap, who plays like an all-around pro, and that is the position that takes 3 years to develop more than any other position in the league outside of maybe quarterback, and he's just stepped in day one as a top 10, top 12 linebacker. That's basically impossible to do, and so he deserves an award for that.
This is not an official entry, but Devin Bush has played pretty well for the Browns.
It kills me. I didn't want to sound like a homer, but you're right. He's had a really good year.
Am I crazy? I'm like, wow,
No.
Is that Devin Bush again? Devin Bush is pretty good at football suddenly.
Yeah, I didn't want to sound like a homer being in Cleveland and everything else, but he's made, I mean, he even had his first interception in years this season. He's I don't know if he's found the fountain of youth or if he's just in the right scheme with Jim Schwartz's defense, but he's having probably his best year or one of his best years.
Maybe a little bit of both, which is like he's in a perfect situation. And what Ollie was saying in terms of sometimes you really do need that time to develop at that position. But especially I think Jim Schwartz and that defense helping him like focus on what he does well. Ollie, who else do you got?
I was going to go with Justin Stranard from the Broncos, who is truly my beloved, but he's once again being benched because Dre Greenlaw has returned. And so I don't think you can put a bench player on the all-underrated team, which is sad. So I'm going to throw something out to the Titans fans and say that in Cedric Gray, I believe you found someone who can actually stand up and play on the field for you on Sundays behind Jeffrey Simmons, and that should be pretty exciting. Now, he's right up there in like the raw like tackle data numbers, and none of it is empty calories to me. His range, his fight, he is still a complete roller coaster, particularly in coverage. He is lost constantly, but if you just put him between the tackles and in the box and allow him to kind of just play sit and find and sift and find football, which is a lot of early down stuff in the NFL, he's playing about as well as you could ever hope for a second-year guy playing in that scheme behind the front that he's playing with.
That is truly all underrated. I know this because my son wanted to play a game. I didn't want to bring the iPad to Chargers Eagles on Monday night when we're stuck in traffic on the way there, and he just wanted to play a game. You give me a depth chart position, and I'll like name who the players are in the NFL, which is, makes me very proud as a father that he suggested that game. And I'm like, Titans linebacker. And he's like, there's no chance that he's getting that. And then he threw it back on me, and I was like, Actually, I was like, that's pretty tough. I did know Cedric Gray, but I was like, I would not have tabbed him for the all underrated team. And off the top of my head, I don't know who's even playing next to him right now in Tennessee. But
Cody Barton doing an awful lot
Okay,
of pointing
that's right.
at everyone else, saying that's where the ball's going to go. And it's like, Cody, could you maybe effort over there for us? We're paying you some money. Could you maybe get in position and make some plays? Cedric Gray's play style and demeanor is just Aziz Al-Shaair put into another body. Now, that's always borderline and reckless, and you get all the dumb penalties. But if that's your kind of linebacker, which is a throwback linebacker that you know the 30 of 32 coaches in the league are like, yes, please sign me up for some Aziz Al-Shaair, Cedric Gray is the next incarnation of that.
yeah, I've just been waiting for the Brandon Spikes style of linebacker to come back into vogue. I mean, Landon Roberts is having a long career there, and he's kind of in that mold. All right, Shook, give me your other linebacker.
A late arrival to my radar. We're going to the Rams here. Nate Landman, who's having an excellent year. I mean, obviously he benefits from playing behind one of the top defensive fronts in football, but I'm not going to use that to take anything away from him. And the reason that he landed on my radar late was because, yes, I'd known about him and I'd appreciated his contributions, but he made one of the greatest interceptions I've seen from a guy at linebacker on Jacoby Brissett against the Cardinals last weekend. Like Jacoby never saw him, and he just full extension picks him off, and I'm like, oh. And they had been talking about him on the broadcast earlier, and I was like, yeah, you are giving him his due, and he deserves that. But then he goes and makes a play almost on cue. I think that, when you look at the Rams as a complete team and defensively, we always talk about that front four. We give credit to some of what they have in the secondary, but we seem to, I don't know, maybe overlook a bit of what they have at the second level. We should stop doing that because Nate Landman's having a really good year.
So Nate Landman signed a contract extension that I think slipped under the entire NFL's radar because it was over Thanksgiving. They got him in for 3 years, $22.5 million extension. They basically signed him for nothing this offseason. I'd have to go check, but I'm guessing it was like $1 million or something or close to the minimum. The guarantee is only about $15 million. That's like for the next 3 years. They just got like a very low-cost linebacker who can stay on the field, who is doing a little bit of everything. If you want to know like how to succeed while you're paying Puka Nakua's next contract and whatever you're paying Devontae Adams if he's still on the team, it's like getting deals like that. Les Snead has done a good job drafting, and that was an amazing extension. Landman, I get it. I probably would do the same thing if I could imagine myself as an NFL player, but like he could have made a lot more money, frankly, if he waited till he got to the open market. I'm sure you've loved watching him play too, Ollie.
Oh, I love the Landman. How could you not? The thing that is interesting about them and their linebackers in particular is that their threshold Frenchies like just don't make mistakes. All the fun stuff we do is in the front and then with the three safeties. Now, not with Quinton Lake, but when we have Quinton Lake, that's where all the fun in games happens. Just be in the right spots on time and never make a mistake. And Nate Landman just doffed his cap and was like, I will not do that, sir, and pay me $21 million. And that's what they did. And that if that's the style of scheme you're running, which is we'll keep the linebacker clean and you just flow to the football and figure it out for us, is really, really, really valuable. And yet they got a really cost-effective deal.
Yeah, he was with the Falcons previously, and he has had a knack for making big plays. And it's been interesting. They said goodbye to Ernest Jones. They had a lot of faith in Omar Spates, who's playing pretty well for them there. That's our linebackers. So let's take a quick break, and we'll come back on the other side, and we will do the defensive line, all underrated defense. Back on NFL Daily, Saturday Sickos. Just occurred to me, we're going to have Saturday NFL football pretty soon. That Bears-Packers game is a Saturday night game in a couple weeks, a few days before Christmas. If you're listening to this on Saturday, though, it is officially Rosenthal Christmas right now. Celebrate it early. It's the last weekend day I have free before they leave for Japan the following week, so just happy Rosenthal Christmas to me. Let's go to the edge defenders. Lot of options here. We'll start with you, Shooky.
Okay, so as we went into the season, we looked at the Detroit Lions and we thought, all right, they got Aiden Hutchinson and they're already dealing with some injuries on the defensive front, and Who's going to play opposite Aiden Hutchinson? Last year it was Zadarius Smith came in the middle of the year. What are they going to do? I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to go to Al-Qadim Muhammad and say, get us 9 sacks, make some big plays in big spots on national television, and become just about as productive of an edge rusher as Aiden Hutchinson this year. You don't believe me? I'll tell you about the numbers. He's 4th in quarterback pressure percentage among all edge rushers at 16.5%. That is 0.01 percentage points behind Aiden Hutchinson, which means they're getting about similar production. And I talked about the 9 sacks. He's made a difference. It hasn't been entirely consistent from week to week. Sometimes he disappears, but man, in those big spots when they need a play, if it isn't Hutchinson, you see number 96 and you're like, oh yeah, that is that guy that blew up earlier this year. Look at him making a play again. So I love what he's done for the Lions this year.
I think of him too as a hustle guy, and he's going to clean it up, but we're watching him beat Terrence Steele clean in that Thursday night game. Look, he started his career pretty well for the Colts, and then he was reduced to a point where he was just on the Lions practice squad. He was not even on an active roster. Anyone could have picked him up basically for free. But that's a good shout out. And it's just like they needed to get production from somewhere, and you can't count on Marcus Davenport to stay healthy for long.
My fear with the Lions defense in general is that they've become really siloed and really packaged, and we do this on one down, then we kind of change the defense on a sub down, and we bring Muhammad in to do his thing. And I think that's why the production kind of ebbs and flows every week. The teams who have a good plan for knowing we can kind of get the Lions into what we want to get them to, they start shifting the front around with McNeil and Williams and Hutchinson. You can kind of dictate the terms to them in a way that I think could get you smoked in a playoff game, unfortunately. But he is a full-on effort and hustle player. Great high-five guy. He gets to the backfield, meets Aiden, says, come on, buddy, good job. So I admire the effort. I admire the gumption. I think he's got a bit more juice than maybe I'm giving him credit for there. But as a one-on-one winner in the playoffs, when you're kind of tipping your hands on what you're doing as a defense, I have some reservations as a kind of second option alongside Aiden.
Forget the playoffs. How about Sunday this week against the Rams? I am definitely concerned about how that defense is going to look. I'm looking forward to that one, though. Give us an edge defender, Ollie.
I'm going with Nick Herbig with the Steelers, who I'm not sure is in any way underrated anymore, but I've had him listed on this team since he walked into the league, so I'm just going to persist with it until Mike Tomlin recognizes the brilliance before him and stops rolling him off the field whenever Alex Highsmith becomes healthy and available again. He is potentially the most explosive guy off the ball in the entire league, particularly from a 2-point stance. Miles lives in probably a tier of his own, but just as a straight juice fly off the ball, Herbig is right there with absolutely no defensive architecture to help a pass rusher out. Zero. And yet he flies off the ball. He wins inside, outside, spin move, dip and rip, whatever you want. He is, I think, a massively difference-making pass rusher, and yet he has to spend half of the season begging for snaps. And so I find that very frustrating. Has played a lot more this season, and we've been able to see the kind of impact he can make.
Yeah, like when I was just writing down some names in case you guys didn't mention, just to give little shout-outs, I was like, does Herbig still qualify? And the answer is absolutely yes, because I think on a national level, people still don't realize he's that quality of a pass rusher. And if Mike Tomlin is only going to play him a combined, I counted him up, 56 snaps the last 2 weeks in money time, like when they absolutely need it, then yes, he is still underrated. I don't get why that
it's mind-boggling. And if you look at the way offenses treat him in terms of like double team rate, chip rate, like all the offenses get it. He's right there with like Will Anderson in terms of like how offenses attribute resources to try and stop him while also having to deal with TJ Watt. And yet the coach on the other sideline is like, take him off the field. Alex Highsmith is going back in. Alex Highsmith is a good player, but TJ Watt has Nick Herbig, has a different level of juice coming off the ball.
Yeah, there was one snap I remember citing earlier this season where I saw, they're sending the help to Herbig and Watt's on the field and Watt makes a big play. And I was like, that's pretty cool that like Herbig is setting up Watt, and it really says a lot. Who else do you got, Shook?
So I found myself in this exercise kind of falling on a bunch of rookies, and maybe it's just because I'm like aspirational when it comes to this and I'm optimistic and I just like to project outward. But like I look at both of the Falcons' rookie edge rushers, which they spent 2 first-round picks on, which we can argue about whether that was good for them long-term. And I kind of mix and match between the two. Like I have Jalen Walker here because he's more consistent than James Pierce, but then James Pierce has also had a sack in each of his last 5 games. I'm not like a sacks-driven guy or anything, but I do like the what Walker kind of brings to the table that you're able to project outward because he's just very consistent PFF had a grading article the other day where they said he's one of the lowest negatively graded players in the rookie class, which I think bodes really well for you long term. That even if you're not showing up in the metrics, or maybe it's not a per play basis where you're making a difference, disrupting the pass or anything else, as long as you can put together consistent reps as a rookie, I think that bodes really well for you long term. So when you kind of dive into that, he looks better and more reliable on a snap by snap basis. And then you pair that with Pierce, who has become more productive over the last month and a half. And I like the direction that they're headed in, even if they're maybe headed for a regime change as well.
You got on the Falcons for this trade, Ollie. A lot of people did, not the Jalen Walker pick, but going for Pierce. It kind of reminds me of the Pelicans trade, for any NBA fans out there, where everyone absolutely killed them for trading away their first for Derek Queen. And that was a bad trade, and yet Derek Queen is looking pretty good. Has Pierce convinced you at all that this trade wasn't completely insane?
Not in the slightest, no. I respect Shook's opinion mightily, as you know. I still think he's a one-track player, and he is getting a tremendous amount of scheme protection and scheme help. And if he was just left in a one-on-one assignment in a down 4 defense, I think he would get swallowed up, and he'd have the 3 or 4 splash plays because he can move off the ball like few people in the NFL. Jalen Walker, though, Shook's pick, I've told you before, I think we're dealing with something unbelievably special with this guy. I think he moves differently. The brain is at a completely different speed to most rookies you see playing there. Block recognition, block destruction is all these guys speak about in the offseason to these young guys. No one sees it, reads it, and kills it as quick as this guy as a rookie. So you add that to then the physical makeup, which is all the potential as like a put the hand in the dirt and get after it pass rusher. I think he's a truly, truly special one.
Which is crazy because they're asking him to do a lot of new things. But maybe you guys are more college guys than me. Maybe Kirby, I don't know. Maybe that defense is so crazy that they're somehow mentally prepared to do a lot of different things in the NFL. I don't know.
There's a reason Howie Roseman keeps going back to the Georgia well to get defenders, and it's not just a circumstance. Like these players come NFL ready, and they tend to be specimens. They're 4- and 5-star recruits. They spend 3-4 years in Kirby's defense. They're ready. And you pair that with the athleticism, the natural talent, and you see why they produce as a rookie like Walker has.
Who else you got, Ollie?
I've got Josh Hines-Allen, who probably is not slightly as underrated now, but I don't think it's being discussed quite the level he's reached now. He has the same number of quick pressures this year as Myles Garrett. Now, Garrett has all the sacks and all the finishing and all the holy bleep, did he just do that moments that Josh Hines-Allen doesn't quite play that way. He's a bit more structured in the rush, so you can kind of like go past you if you don't have these, breaking through a triple team as Myles Garrett did against the Patriots, if that's not quite there to like go viral or whatever. But in terms of consistent down-to-down production, he has just become a complete force and menace. I watched last weekend him throw Quentin Nelson into the backfield, and on the safety play that Riley Leonard had, that's Josh Hines-Allen coming in on a stun and flattening. There he goes, throwing Quentin Nelson to the ground, give me the quarterback. So his burst, his speed to power, as I said, he's still kind of a in the box type pass rusher, but that box is pretty damn productive.
He also, signed a contract in the 2024 offseason, which is aging very well, like they do. If you make them long enough. I know it's like an average per year over 34 and a half, but the first few years is very reasonable. And he's done something which I think is very hard to do. He has probably been the Jaguars' best player for 3 years straight, like 3-4 years straight, not just on defense, just who is a better player on the Jags. Like he has been the best player for their franchise for a number of years straight. And that kind of consistency is awesome. And you're right, he doesn't get thought of as much. Who else should we just throw out little names? Do you have any other?
I have a name. I'm going back to the rookies again. I'm Donovan Ezeraku in Dallas for the Cowboys. I love what he's shown so far. I think his trajectory, not quite limitless, but pretty close. He's good at pressuring quarterbacks. He's good at run stopping. Like he's going to be one of the top rookies of this class. And I think that while we have spent so much time talking about how they got rid of Micah Parsons and everything else, I think they've done a fairly good job of reconstructing that front, and Ezeraku is going to be a key part of it.
He has really blurry speed. He does have a little bit of the thing where if you're just really active with your hands and you move a lot, it looks like you're doing an awful amount, whereas sometimes it's better to just be like controlled and understand what you're doing. But I admire the hustle. I admire his game an awful lot. The other guy I would throw in there would be Yaya Diaby, who I think is in this Josh Hines-Allen mode where it's like big, physical, imposing, and attack the inside shoulder from out to in all power rushing. That is so incredibly valuable if you can get someone with real speed up the arc off the other side. And I think we saw it early in the season when Hassan Reddick was healthy, how different the Bucs front look, because they have this like perfect blend of a guy who goes out to win and a guy who swoops around the arc. And you kind of have to build a pass rushing package together with all the different skill sets. Not everyone's going to be Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, and be able to do every single thing for you, but Diaby is an incredibly effective, valuable pass rusher.
Yeah, Diaby with the Buccaneers, he's been good. Byron Young has had a breakout season for the Rams as an edge, who's pretty good on every down, and he's going to get a nice contract if it's not from the Rams. And then just a shout to my beloved over the years, DeMarcus Lawrence, still getting it done. You could pick a lot of Seahawks, really. DeMarcus Lawrence. Derek Hall is an interesting player who's just a really good player and very powerful. So's Lawrence. They're different, and yet they kind of remind me of each other. And so those guys have been underrated too. Let's go to the interior. We'll wrap it up here, Ollie. Who do you like?
I'm going to go with a guy who I think was on your All Vibes team. I'm going to go with Kobe Turner from the Rams. And I watch him, and I think that he's kind of the spiritual successor, not quite this level. Don't want to be too hyperbolic just because of players I love watching, but in kind of play style and how he sees and views and executes the game to Cam Hayward, where it's a lot of lateral quicks, it's a lot of smart, it's a lot of understanding the angles and throwing guys the other way. And he's really quick moving laterally. That's kind of where he makes most of his money, but there's a real different level of understanding in tight, confined spaces of how to play, how to dress a blocker, how to free guys up so the Landmans of the world can go and get paid. Landman should maybe toss a couple of dollars his way for that contract. He's a absolute mauler and killer inside.
And such a nice guy off the field, which is why he made the Vibes team. Like, just you never know what like the personality change is going to be, but he just seems like a fun-loving guy who loves to be out there playing ball, and he's a wrecking ball. Who do you got, Chuck?
I tried to kind of dig deep on this, just because underrated. I wanted people that I run into a guy at the gym and he's talking to me about his team. I'm like, yeah, but did you notice this guy in your team? They're like, no, I know his number though. And I'm going Jalen Redmond, the defensive tackle for the Vikings. He has had a phenomenal season. Now I know they've had their struggles, but it seems on a week-to-week basis, he is always making a play in the backfield. He is stuffing the run. He's sixth among all defensive tackles, according to Next Gen, in run stops. His quarterback pressure percentage is near 10%, which, as we know, that's pretty difficult to achieve as a defensive tackle if your name is not Aaron Donald. And he's like right somewhere between Vita Vea and John Franklin Myers in that category, which tells me first year in the NFL, you're going to have quite a good career. Not to mention, he's just a load. Like, he's a guy that plays with tenacity and unbridled enthusiasm, where he's just going at 100 miles an hour all the time, and he's producing big plays as a result. So I think that, on a front that they also added like Jonathan Allen and everything, Redmond's been the star, and I think he's going to continue to be a star for them for years to come.
I love like the no-name defensive tackles. I'll just throw out like the guys on the Texans. They're kind of underrated.
Yes, this is one of mine too.
Okay, just go. Togiai, Tim Settle, whoever you want.
Yeah, I was all Togiai. This is a guy who came from Ohio State, who started with the Browns, who I thought had a lot of potential and never really saw the field in Cleveland. And he's another guy where just on a week-to-week basis, you watch the Texans, and suddenly out of nowhere, it's Tommy Togiai making a play. And then it's a test of, can the broadcaster properly pronounce his last name? Because a lot of guys won't. But he just consistently is in the backfield. He's great against the run. And he's another player that just plays with violence and desire that is just like never limited. And I think it's also because of the depth that they have up front that he's able to do that. But man, in so many key spots, there's Tommy Togiai, the old Buckeye, making a difference.
Ollie, who do you got for your interior guys?
The last one I'm going to go with, I went through about 5 or 6 different names. I'm going to go with Malik Collins from the Browns because he just got shut down for the season. And I'm not sure we've ever seen a 10th year breakout star. A guy who you've just waited on and waited on and waited. I don't know if he went to Kobe Bryant's clinic in Germany or whatever, did some kind of blood spinning, but he came back with a level of burst off the ball I've never seen him play with, which you've waited for every 10 years. We've waited for this coming out of college. Say, is that player ever going to make it in the NFL? He gets to Cleveland. They just say, hey, don't worry about anything that we're doing other than attack the quarterback. That's all we care about. And his interplay with Myles Garrett was a huge part of the early season success they had. And it's going to be interesting, I think, to see what they look like down the stretch now that he's out.
Disappointing that he was going to get rewarded for that too. He was a free agent. Selfishly too, I'm making these lists, and just like the the Ravens signed Travis Jones on Thursday. And it's like, oh, there's another name to cross off. Pretty good player. Not perfect, but would have been a fun guy. And it's just like anyone decent, you're just crossing them off these free agency lists. And unfortunately, Malik Collins is going to get hurt. Wait, you said you had 5 or 6 that to choose from? I mean, you could give us some rapid fire, even if they're not the official selections. Give some people some love.
I mean, we could keep going down with Christian Barmore and the bounce back year in New England after everything he's been through health-wise has been sensational. Calais Campbell, I don't think we're still quite recognizing. Obviously, he's a ginormous name, but what he's doing and the production he's putting up in that unit this season, to me, is just out of control. You mentioned Tim Settle was a guy I had on my long list. I like going with someone on that defensive line because everyone else gets all the credit on that defense, including my, great love, Jalen Petrie, who is the glue that holds everything together. But having that rotation of guys in the interior to collapse the pocket up front is kind of what helps those two superstars on the outside out.
I got one more. We're going to go over to New York. We're going to go to the Jets, a team that doesn't have a lot to smile about. Joanne Briggs has had an excellent year for them in the interior. He's another guy like Togia that just consistently makes plays. He's kind of fits closer to the Jalen Redmond mold. And maybe it's because he also is a former Brown, and I've just had my eye on interior defensive linemen with potential. But I swear, man, every week he seems to be one of the shining stars of this front. And there aren't a lot of them at this point. I mean, they're more on the edge than the interior. But he just consistently blows plays up. He splits double teams. He splits, zone schemes. He's got an innate sense for what's going on in front of him. And then he uses his strength and his power to finish plays off. I really like where he's headed in his career.
I like the vigorous head nod from Ollie when he heard Juwan Briggs. This is proof it's the Saturday Sicko Show. Eric had Juwan Briggs tape ready. A national show is talking to Juwan Briggs. Why the vigorous head shake?
I just did a deep evaluation of him this week. I cannot believe Shook brought him up. It's so exciting. Yeah, I can't believe how good and impactful he is down to down. Now, there are some reps in the run game. He tries to split every double team, and sometimes you do that and you get dog walked back into the linebacker. You are Yaya Black. That's just the life you live. But he has he has top end juice for like undersized interior lineman. And I can't believe they lose Quinnen Williams. He has replaced the production Quinnen Williams was giving to the Jets. Quinnen is obviously a significantly better player and is more impactful with the Cowboys, but the production he was actually offering the team early in the season has been replaced by Briggs, and that was not something I was expecting.
Darren Muji, their GM, weird offseason, but he has had a lot of good trades. He was a trade pickup. They basically gave up nothing to her. They picked up Harrison Phillips in a trade. Like he's been pretty useful. For them. And then, the Sauce Gardner trade, that was like a little bit of a luck here that the Colts draft pick is getting better and better. But I think he did pretty well in the Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner trade. So Darren Muji getting it done. I was listening to the All PHLY podcast. They were talking about who was their defensive MVP this year. And they had Jordan Davis on the podium. I was like, okay, he could. That seemed a little much, but it has been the best Jordan Davis season, certainly. Eventually, I think they settled on, yes, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell are better players and more valuable. But in terms of beating expectations for what they thought and has been really important to them, Jordan Davis has had a nice year. And then an annual guy I always think is underrated. There's always a couple guys like this that they just float around, they sign late, or just the team brings them back at the last second. It's like Daquan Jones for the Buffalo Bills. You just put him back in there, and he'll eat some innings for you, and he'll be totally solid. And he's been doing that his entire career. He's one of those guys never gets any respect. So a little love for Daquan.
I'm going to give one more shout out. Tierre Tart with the Chargers. I told you there were multiple Chargers here. I just love what he's done this year. I love the way he started the season, batting down passes against the Chiefs in week 1, and his grades are really good too. And he's another guy that you kind of have to watch closely to see the difference that he makes, but I'm a big fan. I don't know, maybe I'm partial to big interior linemen who blow things up and make a difference that nobody really pays attention to. That might just be my thing.
I think it's everyone's thing. We're dangerously close to just a naming some guys podcast right here.
There's nothing that's excited me more than being on a dudes naming guys podcast with Nick Shook. That's all I've ever wanted in my career. It's finally happened. The last couple of names I would just like to read out to you is The Denver Broncos guys get, I feel like, zero love nationally. It's just penciled in that they are great. Vance gets a lot of the credit, and deservedly so, because he just operates at a different level to most people in the league. But you look through their roster, how deep they run, the volume of packages they run, and how those guys got to the team. One of them is just, obviously, Zach Allen comes with Vance. It's like, if I'm coming to Denver, Zach is coming with me, or I'm not taking the gig. But the rest of it is all these undrafted guys, whether we mentioned Justin Strenard earlier as a late round pick, it's McMillan, it's Singleton, it's Tillman, it's Roach. It's just all these undrafted guys leading this historic level of defense. And yes, they've got Benito and Cooper and these absolute speedsters off the edge, but the pieces that tie it together are all these just well-coached, well-drilled, nowhere to be type players.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what they look like in this stretch run where they have like very difficult game after very difficult game. It starts on Sunday against the Packers. That's the next time we'll be in your feed for the big time week. What are we at? 15 recap. The stretch run has started. Thanks to Ollie. Thanks to Shook. Glad we got you two together. Made this magic happen. But we can do it again. We can do another Name This Some Guys podcast, Ollie and Shook. We will see you on Sunday night. Shook will be there with myself, Jordan, and Patrick. We will see you then.